Hey folks, happy Sunday to you all. I thought I'd give you a weekly update. I'm not going to be doing interviews for a while because interviews are timed. They require a lot of scheduling, a lot of resources to, back and forth scheduling with people. It's an enormous time consuming venture for me, which I happen to enjoy. Long ashes to you. I'm smoking a Gurkha 30th anniversary today with some iced coffee. And we're at an inflection point in the business again where we're now needing to grow. And a lot of things are changed. We're hitting that wall. We're hitting that proverbial wall in the business where the SEO is extremely competitive. It's no longer producing the ROI. Well, not the ROI, the number and volume of calls that we need in order to scale it to the next level, to grow it to the next level. One of the challenges that you have about growth is that, and I've talked about this, and people talk about scaling their business. I really don't think for most people, I don't think it's scalable. And the reason why it's not scalable, especially for operators like me that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 routes, is because immediately when you're hitting a profit margin and your company is profitable and you have one route built completely, you now need to increase your expenditure greatly, buying new trucks, hiring new people, new equipment, to the tune of $50,000 between an employee for the first year, a new truck, where you're going to finance the $28,000, $30,000 for a new truck very easily. If you can find one, you have to order them. You need to now increase your marketing to quickly build that route, because referrals, anybody who tells me that they built their business exclusively from referrals and have grown it to 5, 6, 7 routes, it's an anomaly. It's like 1 in 1,000. It's like the consultant that tells me they have one client that has done it. You can always find an example. It isn't the norm. You can't replicate that everywhere, especially in a market like Miami. So I'm taking time off from doing the recordings of doing interviews. That takes a long time to produce also for Eric, my producer, which I need him to work on other projects that are going to produce a better ROI faster. So we're now at 2 routes. I'm building already, still finishing up, I'm hoping to do it by the next 3 months, get all the products and the things we need to build out that van, finish it out, doing it. We're now testing Google Ads. I will get into that in the podcast as we're doing Google Ads now. What all that involves. I've been studying Google Ads now for probably a year on and off, watching videos of this. What I tell everybody is if you want to learn to do some of this for your business, you're going to have to put in the time of doing the research, asking the questions, watching tons and tons of YouTube videos. All the information is out there. It's free. However, your time isn't free. Once you spend your time on something, you'll never get it back. And you need to put in probably, maybe 40 hours, 80 hours of watching all these videos. Some of these tutorials are lengthy. They're 30-minute, 1-hour videos on tutorials on how to do ads. The problem is they don't tell you how to do everything for ads because there's so many types of ads. There are click ads. We're doing click ads. We're doing phone call ads. We're doing performance max ads. We're trying different things, and you got to create multiple ads and multiple campaigns, and you've got to go through verification processes, and you have to do, link your site for the analytics to get it back. You got to wait till the AI kicks in. It starts placing your ads. Find the negative keywords you don't want to rank for because it'll eat up your ad budget quickly. And right now I've been in it testing for almost 4 weeks, getting back data, synchronizing and getting it better because of our niche, because of our keywords, because of the whole strategy I'm developing. AdWords takes time to learn, and it takes money to test. I'll probably put in about $1,000 into a test just to test and see what's going to work. and then duplicate that process in different areas. We are running right now about 12 different ads, different sets, different segments, different languages to do this. And what people don't understand is they'll want to hire an agency, and then you need $2,000 to $3,000 budget because you need to test to see which ones are going to work, which one worked the best, which one gives you the best ROI, which one gives you the lowest cost per click, lowest cost per call. You got to look at the CPM. You've got to look at what's triggering these ads to come up. And then you have to have a high quality ad because Google rates it on all this. And it's a process. It's a very lengthy process. Most people don't have the time to test. And then they'll hire an agency, and the agency will eat up their budget and say, but we got you the calls, we got you the clicks, yeah, but they were worthless. Because an agency person or a law isn't going to sit there when they're running 20, 30, 40 ads for people, 40 campaigns, and then sit there and work endlessly on hours on monitoring your campaign until they tweak it, unless you're the one supplying them with the keywords. Unless you're supplying them with, you're having these weekly meetings with them and saying, okay, this went wrong, this went right, fix this, fix that. Unless you can see the ads, which I recommend you have the account, that you have access to it. You don't allow the agency to not let you see what's happening. Never do that, because then they're just going to give you stats and numbers and say, well, you paid $13 a click and we've got you 37 clicks this week. You got 37 calls, and the ads are trash because you're not closing them. So this is what the weekend review looks like on what I've been doing all week to grow the business, the challenges, the struggles, the heartache of things that work and things that don't. And hold on a second, I'm going to put this fan towards me because it's getting hot in Miami. We're like 86 degrees today. All right. I'm back here in my lounge chair. So, those are the things that you have to look at on ads. There's a ton of things. I might do a video on it if I get a chance. I don't promise it because I'm like super swamped right now. We're entering into new markets. We're building out at least a dozen new pages between now and the end of the month, which is next week. We're probably going to run into the end of the week next week. We're trying to do our Google local GMB. I already fired the company. They had 5 months to rank me for 2 words. And I decided I'm going to challenge them on me ranking 1 word. And I've basically, with very little effort, have done a better job than them at ranking my words for local GMB. We've done backlink campaigns. We're doing a ton of stuff with that SEO to rank for the GMB, because that is worth it for us. Because once you rank for a lot of these things, very hard to fall off unless you got very stiff competition, which we do, and we got to stay on top of it. So those are the things that we're now getting into Google Ads. I was looking at LSI ads, but at $71 a call that it's going to cost us to run LSI ads. Those are local search ads that work together with the GMB for local companies. It wasn't worth it for me right now. I got a bunch of guys doing it. They're losing their shirt here in Miami. So what we're doing is trying to get the lowest CPM, the lowest cost per call, actually, that we can get. And it requires a lot of tweaking and then looking at our close ratios and analyzing close ratios on those calls, tracking those calls, where they're coming from, seeing which ones are actually producing. I'm looking at the analytics every single morning. The first thing I do is I get up in the morning, grab my cup of coffee, turn on my computer, and go look at what happened the day before and analyze it. Look at all the negative keywords that I don't want, that we got calls for that are bogus. A million people, we're doing agency will tell you, don't do this, but understand that, an agency doesn't care about how much money you're spending on ads. They only care about the money they're making on a monthly basis to manage your ads, and they could care if you spent $3,000 and it didn't produce the ROI. That's just a reality I find here in Miami. I don't know where you're at. But we're looking at different companies until I can get to a $4,000 to $5,000 ad spend a month. I'm probably not going to hire an agency. Once I learn to do it, and once I have it, I will hire an agency. This is what we want, but it's actually the cost of managing those ads. Once I got them running, I don't need an agency. I already learned how to do it. I paid the price, so it's not worth it for us to hire an agency. I hired a new sales guy. I got to feed him leads. I got to produce leads. If not, he's not going to live and he's not going to make money. So once you get to that level, now you got to increase it. And we're looking at building out a new route in another county near us. And so this is what I'm focused on for this year right now, is getting into that new territory, building out that new territory, and expanding that way. And it's probably going to be about a year's worth of investment to get it into that market and compete. And it is a hyper competitive market. It is super price sensitive. Once you get beyond the initial two routes, which are pretty easy, were pretty easy for me, then it becomes much harder, because you can't grow a route on a 20% growth of business when you got two. You need a 50 to 100% growth in the year in order to build out that route and to cover the expenses and the salary and all this. There's those costs associated. So you can get off of referrals and things like that to a certain point. Once you want to go to a second route, you figure out it's inadequate. You don't have enough clients unless you have 2,000 clients that are going to produce enough referral business. If you're actively seeking referrals, which is a time-consuming task, because you got to have a salesperson contacting customers, a CSR contacting customers, sending emails, sending texts to get the referral business and pushing for the referral business, which is a task in itself. So everything has a cost associated to it. The question you got to ask yourself, can I learn to do it right? And you're going to do it badly before you do it wrong, to the tune of about $1,000 to test. If you don't have $1,000 to test, and then another $1,000 or $2,000 a month in budget to do ads, you're better off not doing it, because you're going to lose your money. And this is where people lose their money. This is where people say ads don't work. I tried it. Well, they're so complicated now. They got so many things and levels you need to learn about ads. If you do very simple ads and you allow Google to find everything for you, Google is going to maximize the budget to get the most clicks, because understand, they're in the ad game. They're not in the search game. They're in the ad game. And a company that will pay them more to produce more clicks, they're going to favor that company over the company that doesn't have the budgets. And when I'm competing with the top, out of the PCT 100, I probably have 10 to 15 in my market out of the PCT 100. So these guys have the budgets. They're all being bought out by the top 3 companies in the area, and they have the ad budgets to do it. I got a regional company that just bought out a local guy. A local company that bought out a local guy. He called me to buy me out this week. I said, no, I'm not interested yet. I got to get it to a certain level before I'm interested in selling. So these are the challenges that you have. You really have to do the homework. Spend 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours watching videos. Plan out 6 months ahead before you want to do it. Then do the testing. And do the testing with multiple types of ads. Fine-tune the ads. Fine-tune the keywords. Fine-tune the negative keywords. And spend about a month testing so that you can get it. That's the reality. We had changed our compensation plan to get our techs to do more, because I've talked to about 4 or 5 people over the last year who were doing it that way, and their techs were managing. And I'm still looking to make my techs managers. The problem now becomes, how much can they manage? And I'm going to deal with 3 different things today. How much can they manage? And what's the time that you give things before you give up on them? And this was an important conversation I had with a very big pest control guy who has 20 something technician, 20 something people. And I said, "Are you giving up on things?" The question he had for me, which is, "Are you giving up on it before it's actually produced the results and looked at all the problems?" And in the past, I have, because I said, "Man, I just blew $1,000 on this, $2,000 on that, $3,000 on that. It doesn't work." And then the question becomes then, when do you give up on things? When do you? How much do you have to test? Are you testing the right things? Are you asking the right questions? Um, are you evaluating it correctly? A lot of times we're evaluating it incorrectly. So those are the things he challenged me with a couple of weeks ago when I met him, and I met up with him, and in that short conversation, and that was the challenge. And I said, let me reevaluate. So one of my technicians, I got two. One of them is really great at managing, really great on staying on top of things, really great at following up, because he's hungry, he wants the money, he wants to make it, and I provide all the resources, the tool, whatever they need. They tell me, "Bro, we need to do this," and I say, "Okay, let's do it," and I get it for them, because the way I see it and the way I was taught as a good manager was that I'm not responsible for my people. I'm responsible to my people to give them all the tools and resources that they need so that they can succeed. That includes training, that includes good equipment, that includes money to do things, that it requires, my sales guy is coming up with great ideas because he's also a marketing person. He's run a business. He's run several businesses. He knows what I'm going through as a solo operator also, and as a partner in a business. And he's giving me and evaluating things that we have to do and change. And I said, "Okay, I need you to come with at least 10, 15 ideas, because some of these ideas require too much money and too much capital. I'm not ready for them yet. What can we do?" In other words, give me 10 ideas. Here's the guidelines that I need for these ideas. Here's the ROI I need to make these things happen within X period of time. And if I don't have the money or the capital, I will probably give up on them too soon, and then we won't know if they succeeded or failed. So I'm giving them the guidance, the parameters, but my other tech, he can't handle the stress of following up with everybody and scheduling himself and doing this and doing that. And it's too many conversations. So we had to change our protocol again, but I gave it 3 months to work. And we found out where all the problems were, and they weren't, or through the coaching and the training, they weren't able to overcome those obstacles. But I gave them 3 months of actively working on it, trying, okay, let's do it this way, let's try it this way, change this, we'll modify this, we'll deal with customers this way. And this is like literally not what I just take my hands off and let them do. This is where I'm involved with them on a daily basis on these issues. And they couldn't overcome certain things. So I had to retake back the scheduling, the CSR work. Now I've got a sales rep that's also my CSR, and he's taking the calls. I took those calls off their back. It was extremely stressful for them. Even though they didn't have 15 to 20 stops a day, they were doing 8 to 11. On the worst day, it was 14, but we had a lot of route density. We had to take it back. The experiment didn't work. And I also had to say, look, if you can't do that, I'm going to take all this off your plate. What you're telling me is 1 hour to 2 hours a day. Take it off your plate, and I'm going to replace it with work, because my CSR now is handling every single phone call. We're not missing any calls, which is what we're getting props for from our clients, that we're able to, take the call immediately, call them back within 5 minutes, and schedule them the same day and get it done same day or next day. So that's giving us the value that the customers are valuing, because nobody's answering their phones. I told my sales guy, call these people and say, how many of these do you get a call? You get an answer, you get a voicemail, you don't get a call back. And these are the things that the technicians were struggling with. But it also served as a training for them to realize that what they were saying they could do, what they thought they could do, and then the reality of actually doing it is totally different. And this is where a lot of people, and technicians especially, say, well, we could do a better job if we handled the call with a customer and if we scheduled our own thing. And if we did our own thing, and then you realize there's a time burden that now you don't have, because while you're on that job, a customer is texting you saying, hey, when can you schedule me? I got a problem. And you're not answering that customer back for 2 to 3 hours because you're not constantly on your phone looking at your phone like I am, where I'm paranoid. And I'm constantly looking at my phone going, we missed a call, we missed a call. Why did we miss a call? Let's call this customer back. You see, so between the what you think it's going to be like to what it's actually like until you actually do it is all theory. And like I was having a conversation on Saturday with my sales guy, we want to change some of these programs because we're losing some opportunities. Says, okay, so we thought about it. We woke up both of us together because he's an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. And he says, man, I was thinking last night, I went with that thought in my head, and I said, so did I. We had the conversation, and I said, so what do you think we do? I said, I think we do this, this, and this to take advantage of that opportunity, because we're missing those calls when we can't service them. How do we do it? All right, let's do it that way. So we're having a meeting on Monday. We're having now strategy meetings on Monday at 10 o'clock between me and him to fine-tune these things that we can do. And over the weekend, he came up with 5 ideas last week, 3 of which I already implemented. So you see, it's about that collaboration. But now I'm at a different level between my sales rep and my techs, because he's up here and they're like here still. And one of them is still down here on the issues. So you're never going to get techs to do everything. We figured out what they could do, what they couldn't do. And we took back the things they couldn't do, reduced their pay a bit. And I said, if you know, this is going to reduce your stress level, your work level that you can't do, let's focus on the things you can. So now I'm still training them on cross-selling and upselling the customer and doing a lot of these things, because that's going to give them the additional revenue in the field that they're going to lose because of their no longer scheduling, they're no longer calling the customer. And I said, we can do that better in-house. So me and Carlos, we've been working, and it's working great on that from the salesperson. So you got to try things. And then that was the challenge. How long do I give it before I say, okay, it's not going to work? And it's not working. And instead of just doing it for 1 week and saying, you see, it was chaos, it doesn't work, I endured the chaos, I endured the problems, I endured the suffering of them messing up and not doing it until we finally figured out, okay, yeah, but now it grew and their route is growing and they're already full. I got no choice but to start a new route already because they're full, but the marketing and the SEO is not producing the calls fast enough. I got to do other things. So we're looking at, talking and you listening to the podcast that we've been talking with, what Tom Miche is doing. And what other guys are doing with influencer marketers and being in groups. We're implementing that stuff also. So we're doing a lot of these things in select groups and things to, all the conversations I've been having with all these people that I've brought on, we've had conversations before. And so we said, okay, what can we implement? Because that's the other thing. We can't do everything. So we have to pick and choose. Like, we're going to implement this. We're going to fine tune it for 2 to 3 months, give it 2 to 3 months to work. And what I figured is that's a prudent time for me to evaluate things, is 2 to 3 months. 1 week, 2 weeks, 30 days, a month is not enough. You got to give it time. We're doing those things. What else happened this week? So those were the 2 major impactful things that happened this week. We're hiring a company now to redo our website again. We're going to try it a 3rd time, but this time, they come highly referred. We've seen their work. They're only doing the website redesign. We're not going to start with a brand new website. We're going to pay a little bit more to do the redesign with our content. We've been working tirelessly I've been working tirelessly for the last 2 months, since January, on fixing the canonical issues on the site. We've improved from being a 90% informational site to being 60-something%. We're more transactional. We've gotten the better results. We've gotten more traffic. We've gotten more calls. But that was a lot of fixes that I had to do in-house myself, because we could not find an SEO company that's going to charge us less than 150 an hour to really do it. I can afford to pay for those things myself because I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I know what I'm talking about, and I can do it. So that's where we're at with that. We're implementing a bunch of things with our text to improve our image and our branding in front of the client. Things we discovered by talking to the client. We're going in now as a CSR, can call the client back, says what went well, what didn't go well. Those are the kind of things that we're at that level now, where we because I've learned from that everything is managed chaos. Everything is a balancing act. There is no balance. It's being on a tightrope every day, while you're crossing Niagara Falls, in a storm, with a baby on your hands, and now you're being set on fire. That's what it feels like. But what I learned from the businesses that grew and the problems they had by talking to these businesses that grew, I decided I was going to create a good foundation to deal with these things and then start tackling these issues once we get to that point. And not deal with it before, because until we get to that point is knowing what point do you start implementing things. And that's really the challenge, that you can't listen to a guru, a book, ideas, podcast, and then not take some of these ideas, implement them to know if they work or not for you. The other challenge that we have with things that work and things that don't is timing. We didn't have the right budget to do it. We did it with the wrong budget, so therefore we failed. We didn't give it the right amount of time, therefore we failed. We didn't have all of the information, and therefore we failed. So revisiting some of these things again and say, okay, now we have more knowledge, now we have more experience, now we have a little bit more money to throw at this. Why don't we try this again and see what happens? And that's the issue of all these problems. But yeah, so now our customer service level has risen again, where I want to take it to a new height. We're calling people back, figuring out, hey, what did the technician do well? What did you think? What should we do better for you? And also calling people back and saying, hey, by the way, we do this, we do that, we also do this. I noticed when the technician did the inspection, he shot these pictures. You really should get that repaired. If you can't do it, we'll quote it for you. Things like that. So we're taking our business really to a next level in customer care, in marketing, and in strategy. But guys, it really is, and gals out there, it is frustrating a lot of the times. There is an enormous level of frustration because you're wanting things to work. You say, these people talk about it, we tried it. None of the stuff these guys are talking on Facebook. And lastly, I got a couple minutes. I want to talk about the mastermind group. We started the mastermind group, and I got 20-something people in that group. We got about half the country covered, from coast to coast, but about half the country. And I started asking questions. What do you guys want to discuss? Hey, who is an expert on this? Who's an expert on that? It turns out nobody's sharing anything. People ask really good questions, and there are people in there who have 5, 6, 7 technicians already. They're not answering any questions. Other than to tag everybody in the group and tell them, hey, can you respond to this? So the idea of this mastermind is for people to share together and not be another group where we talk about bifenthrin and which is the best process. This is about business growth, and nobody is sharing in that group. The people that are asking the questions are in the lower level, and the people who are in the higher level are not answering. So I decided I've learned quickly that I'm not going to invest too much more time if people don't start engaging. And I wanted to have a meeting about PPC because I'm doing PPC. I've studied PPC, but I want to know what their ins and outs were and have a meeting. And nobody stepped up to the plate. So what I learned very quickly on a lot of these things is that people want to be part of things, and they want somebody to feed them all the info, and they don't want to collaborate and invest the time. This requires time. Being in a mastermind group environment to you to invest at least an hour to 2 hours a month to get this done. And if it doesn't happen, we simply shut it down and not waste our time. So that's the weekly update of things that have been going on. I'm going to give you another update next week and give you the pros and cons and what we found, what we discovered, what we're learning on a week-by-week basis in the business versus doing podcasts that really pump sunshine up on everybody's tailpipe, but they don't really tell people the truth about what it's going to take. And there's just so many podcasts on that. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Everybody wants to be a marketer. Everybody wants to have a following. But when we look at the realities of things, very few people are actually telling you the truth about what it really takes. It's all high level ideal stuff, but when it comes down to the practical, nobody's really telling you on the practical. And I think that my audience appreciates this, and this is why I'm just focusing on this and not really trying to be one of those guys. If you enjoy those guys, great. It makes for great entertainment. It motivates you. The problem with motivation is just like crack. You got to come back every day for a hit because it doesn't last long. It's like bathing. Like, Zig Ziglar used to say, motivation is just like bathing. You got to do it every day because you get dirty. And if you got to be motivated all the time, I think we need to get to more practical instead of being bookshelf smart, which a lot of people have all the answers, yet they don't do it. I'm here every week by week struggling with the real issues, or trying to overcome them. It's not easy. Stress levels get really high. You get worried. You're pumping all this money in. Where's the ROI going to be? There's some guys with really funny stuff. I'm going to give you something about demographics before I go. I want you to really focus on your demographics, understanding who your client is. One of the things that we're talking, it's like we got it feels like almost everything is stacked against us. And if I wouldn't have read the book, Acres of Diamonds, which I recommend you read, and read it again, and read it about once a year to get perspective. We have to go somewhere else to do this. I mean, we got to expand. We're going other places. But the idea that you can't make it where you are, understanding our demographics. One of the things I understand is, since I'm a troubleshooter, I tend to look at at the negative things that are happening, the problems. And then having the conversations, okay, how do we overcome these problems? With intelligent people that can come up with creative solutions. Because my nature is to be a troubleshooter. Find the negative things, find what's wrong, and then see how we can either sell against it or do something else on it. And I'm really good at that. But people think, oh, you only bring up the negatives. So this is the challenge. This is what we have to overcome. This is the reality. Now, we need a creative solution. That's why you're here. And if you can't come up with creative solutions and only point out the problem to me, I don't need you. I'm an expert at that. I'm an expert at pointing out the problem. So we look at our demographics. Think about this for a minute. We got a city which is huge, 2.5 million people, but down here in the top 10, Orkin, Truly, Terminex, Anticimex buying out local and regional companies here. You've got the one that owns Target and just bought a couple of large ones from Europe, and now I lost their name. You know who I'm talking about. Buying out companies. Regional competitors buying out companies. So these guys have $1 million ad budgets and Massey Services, Hewlett, which is huge down here. All companies that are respectable, but they got the budgets. And we have to figure out where we find that niche, where we find that hole to compete in that, because doing ads is very expensive. You throw that in there, you have one of the highest rents and mortgages in the country is Miami, but it also one of the lowest incomes in the country. So we're keying at being the most expensive place to live with the lowest income. 65% Hispanic. That gives us only a 45% of the market to go after in English, which they are going after. So we're struggling to get that Hispanic market, but they don't have the money. So we have to come up with a creative solution how we work these plans out, how we work these packages to make it appealing, to make the sale, to make it happen. Um, those are the challenges that every business has to face. Your challenge is different than my challenge. This is why I wanted this mastermind group to work, because we can all look at different challenges and say, how do we overcome them? But the fact is, people are not interested in investing their time in a mastermind. What they're interested in is sitting there and says, all right, tell me what to do and I'll do it. I said, no, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to learn how to do it. And then I'm going to charge you 2 to 3 grand to do that, because I invested the 80 hours, the 100 hours to learn to do something. And then you want me just to give it to you for free without you giving something in return to the community and having reciprocity in this, where I'm really starting to get more time because my time is more valuable. And I can't keep giving away everything for free when nobody wants to invest. And then when I do give it to you for free, you don't do anything with it. So, right now, I've got companies calling me for doing consulting on a lot of stuff that we've done. I said, look, my consulting fee is simple. It's $259 an hour for me to do it, for me to do training for your company. I will go and travel to your company and do the training. It's $259 plus expenses, plus travel, plus my time to get there. So, for me to do a day of training at your company is 2 to 3 grand. If you want me to teach these things to your people that I've learned, because I got people that, I inherited a spray and pray company. I bought this company and they're spray and pray. And we want to do the IPM and we want to do the eco-friendly. I said, look, that's an expensive proposition. You're not going to turn that ship around that quickly. You're not going to change those people's minds. You're going to have to change your staff and keep the best people and then fire everybody else. You're going to get to the point where, like Pete Chopin did, he realized he had, 10 years in, and he had all the wrong people and he built the wrong foundation. And now he had to fire all these people and get new people and set up new programs. And then he was able to grow. That's a tough pill to swallow. You're going to have to do that. I got people calling me. I just inherited a company from my dad. I inherited a company from my father-in-law, and it's a mess. And I've been listening to you for 8 years, and everything you say is true. How do we do it? I said, you're going to have to hire a consultant. You're going to have to pay the money when you get to that level. Nobody's going to hand that stuff to you. That took a lot of experience and a lot of pain and suffering to learn how to do a lot of these things. And I'm willing to share it in a mastermind with those that are willing to give something back. If you want to be on my podcast, if you want me to do consulting for you, which I've been doing for the last couple of months, and do it for free, you're going to have to come on my podcast for 4 to 5 hours to have those hard conversations, put the cards on the table, and talk about them openly with other people so that we can help other people for free. But I'm not giving you 4 hours of my time for free when you don't want to invest anything, and then you're going to say, all right, that's nice. I love the conversation. This is great. Thanks for your time. Bye. And not do anything with it. That's where a lot of people are, and understand that there's a price to pay at the checkout counter for the things you want. Not everyone can grow a multi-million-dollar pest control business. Anybody who's willing to pay the price of blood, sweat, and tears, heartache, and go through it, and the stress and the problems can, but you have to have the right mindset. You got to get rid of a lot of wrong thinking that's in your life, and you got to be willing to do it. I've been dealing with a lot of things that I had a wrong mindset about. Everybody does. And by being with these multi-million-dollar companies, talking to them, getting their feedback, going directly to the problem, of diagnosing what the problem is, and then saying, this is what it's really going to take if you want to do it. This is the price you got to pay for getting what you want from it. And what we are is in a market that, like I said, we got very stiff competition, but I still have a niche. I still have an upper hand on that. Very few people doing what I am doing, marketing it the way I'm marketing it. And it's going to get better. It's easier now for me to do this than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. A lot less stress to do it. There's still a lot of stress involved. There's still worry and doubt and fear about what if it doesn't work. So I limit and say, okay, we're going to limit it to this. Can we get it done? I consult people. Can you think we can get it done with this? If we can't, then we wait. And we do other things that can give us a decent ROI on our investment for the time that we're investing in it. So I hope this helps you guys. I hope the weekly review helps. I'll be doing this once a week. Like I did the Blue Chair Chronicles. I'm just sitting in my lounge chair. Maybe we'll call it the Lounge Chair Chronicles. There you go. We're going to call it the Lounge Chair Chronicles. And we'll be doing this for a couple months. And maybe I'll make it a permanent thing, because I think that weekly update on how a business is growing, the challenges we face that week, going through it, journaling that, and having a journal of what we went through. It also helps us to look back and say, you remember when we did that podcast and we were dealing with this, and we're no longer dealing with that. We have new problems and new challenges. That's not even an issue anymore. That's the beauty of a lot of this. So I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Long ashes to you. Have a blessed day, guys. Take care.